Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Crystal, and I'm the Community Manager at Ning. I'm here with Juliet from the Ning Advocacy team, and she'll be your host this hour as she guides you through the migration process and answers your migration questions. We're going to cover some of the questions you submitted during registration during the demo, but I'm sure you're going to think up some more great questions throughout this webinar, so please submit them using the questions feature. Anything we don't get around to today, we'll cover in a follow-up blog post or possibly in another webinar. We may even develop some Help Center content based around some of your questions. So without further ado, I will let Juliet introduce herself and get us started.
Hi everyone, my name is Juliet and I'm part of the Ning advocacy team. So if you've ever submitted a support ticket, I may have very well been the one to answer it, or you may have seen me chiming in on some creators discussions. I'm very glad to be here today to share some content on how you can prepare for your Ning 2.0 to 3.0 migration. So first I'm going to get started with giving a brief overview of what we'll discuss today. So part one today will be some tips on what you need to know prior to submitting your migration requests.
Then a quick behind the scenes look at what we actually do on the support side of things, how we initiate the migration, and just a sneak peek at the systems we use. Then I'll give you some tips on reviewing your Ning 3.0 content and adapting to a new platform. Then Crystal will share some tips on miscellaneous best practices. She's actually going through the process of migrating our creators network, so she has some real experience with the network creator point of view on this. And as Crystal mentioned, we'll finish with a Q&A session. So first things first, what is migration? This is the process of moving content, members, and information from a Ning 2.0 network to a Ning 3.0 network. And just a little update on where we are at currently. Right now we're in phase 1 of the migration process, and it's totally voluntary, and you can submit a migration request form. Once you submit the form, it goes over to our support team, and you'll have one of the advocacy team members serving as your guide and your point of contact throughout the process. If you'd prefer to wait for a later phase of migration, either because you're waiting for certain features or you're just not ready yet, you are more than welcome to upgrade during a later phase of the process. So should you migrate right now? It really depends. It could be personal reasons, maybe you just don't want to take on the project right now, but for most of you, the deciding factor is really what features we can and cannot migrate. So currently, you can see on the left what we can migrate, and the list is actually much longer than this. I just couldn't fit it all on the slide, but some important points, we can migrate members, blogs, forums, photos, groups. And we have a page dedicated to listing this out on our Ning 3.0 Help Center. If you search for content that can be migrated, you can see the entire list. But what's probably really important to you all is what content cannot be migrated. So at this time, we cannot migrate videos, events, text boxes, moderator roles. This one can be a big one if you need some help administering your network. As is right now, anyone that is a moderator will only have the option to make them a full network creator. So I understand a lot of you won't be comfortable with giving other people full network creator privileges. So that's totally understandable, and right now wouldn't really be a great time for you, and as well as anyone else that is concerned with having videos and events. But we have heard your feedback on this, and it is on the product roadmap. So you can check our product roadmap to see kind of how we're prioritizing these things. And please keep in mind that 3.0 is a new platform, so not everything that is on 2.0, it's not going to all be on 3.0 eventually. So again, check our roadmap. Some things like birthdays or Ning apps or the music feature, those aren't going to be making a return. So now, how can you prepare for the move? A really important piece of this would be to start with archiving your Ning 2.0 content. We have the Ning Archiver, which if you go to the Ning 2.0 Help Center, you can search for it and get some tips on how you can archive all of your content, members, and media files. Another thing that's come up a lot is that some people haven't realized that text boxes aren't going to be migrated, so then they're requesting some additional time to copy the text boxes somewhere.
Juliet,
yeah.
can you just explain really quickly what you mean by text boxes? We have a couple questions about that. So
Okay. So this is when you are on your network and you add the text box to a certain page. So this is any HTML or any little text that you've added to your home page or any page on your network. So that can't migrate over. Maybe, I don't know if I explained it well. Do you have a question on it still?
I think that's pretty good.
Okay. So also I'd recommend giving members and group creators a heads up about the process. I've seen some people creating a text box on their homepage, just a little blurb about, hey, we're moving over to 3.0 or something like that. That's really up to you, but if not that, maybe a broadcast message to let people know that you're going through this upgrade process. And definitely reach out to some group creators, because the idea of group creators, they actually don't exist in 3.0. All of the groups are owned by the network creator, and these group creators that on 2.0 are now going to be group admins, so you can communicate this change to them as well. And if you're pretty proactive like Crystal is, you can even think about design. 3.0 profile pages come with a default cover photo, so you might want to think of something clever that you can add there so the new platform already looks a little bit alive and you can make it your own this way. So if you've decided that you're ready to migrate, the first step would be to submit this migration request form. It's pretty simple. We just ask that you please submit the request from the network creator email address on file. That's just for security and privacy reasons. And you enter in your 2.0 subdomain and then your 3.0 if you have one. So a lot of you you might not have a 3.0 network, and that's totally fine. Just leave that blank and our team will create one for you. We'll make up a temporary name for it, and you can definitely rename this at the end or even swap the names. We'll just write something like a 3 on the end for the purpose of creating something to migrate your content into. And if you do have one, maybe you had a Sandbox network or you started a trial on your own, you can write that here. So here I wanted to give you a little sneak peek of the tools our advocacy team actually uses behind the scenes. This isn't anything you need to worry about, but I thought it'd be a neat view for you to see. So on the left-hand side, I have my test network. It's I Love Pizza. That's my 2.0. And I have I Love Pizza 3 that I've created for this migration. And I'm migrating everything available. So the default will be all. Some of you, when you submit your form, ask us things like, please don't migrate my network settings. And if we see that, this is where we'd add an additional option for you, or any kind of little special request, we can add a string for that. But most of you were migrating everything available, and we just hit the build button. It's actually a really simple tool for us to use. And then we'll get this log that you see on the right. It really depends on the size of your network. Mine took about 45 seconds to migrate because it's just a test network with not too much content. It can take maybe up to a day if yours is a little bit bigger, or a couple days if you have a ton of stuff, images on there. So this isn't really super important for you, but I wanted to show you this chart where you can see how many things were successful in migrating, and then all the way on the right we have a chart of failures. So the point here is that your advocacy team member that's supporting you through the process isn't going to just press a button and send it over to you. We are checking logs and we're rerunning any failures we see. So we have a really cool script. We just remigrate all failures over and over until things are looking good. So we're doing cross-checking on our end before handing it off to you. So once your content and data has been transferred, your migration guide will prompt you to review the networks and ensure that everything has been transferred appropriately. I'd recommend checking your Ning 2.0 and 3.0 networks side by side. So you might open up some tabs like your content, members, or whatever is important to you, and you can actually open those pages and compare them and see how they've changed, if at all. And if anything doesn't look like you were expecting, please just let us know. And we are happy to remigrate a feature. So remigrating means something isn't looking right on photos. Let's just say 200 of your photos didn't make it over. I would probably just remigrate photos completely to see if that solves the issue. And another term is topping off. That means that maybe something new was posted to your 2.0 network during the migration process. So people have been asking, oh, my members are still active on my 2.0. Am I going to lose all that new content? And the answer is no. We do a top off, so anything new will make it over to your 3.0 site. And you'll have 5 business days to review your 3.0 network. So we've been getting a lot of questions on that as well. And we've set the 5 business days just because it really does streamline the process for our team. Our support team can't really have a migration running for 2 weeks just because it impacts our technology and as well as the people on the team. We can't dedicate 2 weeks to one migration. And I understand that 5 business days can be short, but it's not really meant to be 5 days and you're done. We expect 5 days for migrating content. That's how it works. So it's 5 days to review and make sure there's not any major discrepancy, and then of course you can work on your network afterwards and work on your design and things like that that I understand you're going to have to be rebuilding. So before I get into finalizing the migration, I'm actually going to show you a real example. So this is my Ning 2.0 network, which is a network for pizza lovers. You can give it a quick look. I have some blogs, members, and photos. There's also some things that aren't going to make it over, like the events feature, birthdays, and music. Something like a group will definitely migrate. So you can take a look at the before. And now I am going to show you the after. Just a second. Okay, so this is my new 3.0 homepage. You'll do a quick side by side again. This is the 2.0 and the 3.0 is here. So something really neat that we just added was the ability to migrate design. And that means design if you're using a theme from your design studio templates. That does not mean custom CSS. That is something we cannot migrate because Ning 3.0 uses different CSS classes. But the nice thing is that you're not starting with a completely blank canvas. We're trying to get the look and feel close to what you had in 2.0. So I'm going to go over my recommendations for first steps in reviewing your network. And I mentioned earlier it's a good idea to cross-check side by side. So I wanted to show you my members page in 2.0, and I see I have 7 members here. You're probably going to want to open your members tab in your new 3.0 network and confirm that things are looking similar. So I have 7 members here as well. So that's great. Some members on your 2.0 may have since actually left your network or something like that. So it could be reasonable that the count will be a little off by a handful of members, or it really depends on how big your network is. But if you see big discrepancies, that's not normal, and please contact us. We can easily rerun the migration for members and hopefully sort this out. And next, I'm going to check my blogs. So these were my 2.0 blogs. I had 8 blog posts here. There's one about homemade pizza and pizza festivals around the world. There's 8. Next, I'm going to open my new 3.0, and you'll see it's actually going to be called Blog 2.0. Everything migrated will have a little blurb like Blog 2.0, Forum 2.0, so you know where it came from. But here are the same blog posts. So here's homemade pizzas, pizza festivals, and the count will actually be at the top. It's not really ideal here, but I only have 1 page of content, so you don't see the count. It's kind of obnoxious to have to count it. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But most of you have more than 1 page of blog posts or of content, and there will be a number right at the top that you can easily cross-check. And I don't have a bunch of pages of content, but some of you do, and I would definitely recommend looking at the pagination at the bottom. Let's say you have 1 of 75 pages of blogs. Please check the 75th page or the 70th page just to make sure that the older posts also made it over. I've seen a couple instances where the counts look fine, but then you go to page 70 of your blogs or page 100 and I don't see images or they look a little off. So check the older content as well and let us know if anything isn't looking right, and we'll get that sorted. So other than just comparing counts, I want to show you how you actually get into managing your network. So I'm going to open this dashboard and get into our social site manager. And just a little bit on that, a lot of you are used to Ning 2.0 and working through your features layout. And in Ning 3.0, everything is really managed through your site and pages manager here. So I'm going to click that. So there's no longer the idea of a features layout and clicking on that page to edit it. You go into your site and pages manager and you see all of the pages. This one right here is my home, and there's no longer a text box that you're going to edit. You do this all through the adding content feature. So the idea of a text box is actually an HTML content type, and you can either type or you can switch over to HTML mode and copy and paste any code. So I'm going to add that to my home page and drag it to the top. So that's one of the first things you're going to want to do is check out your new home page and make any adjustments. Actually, I don't think I saved that new tab. Save.
Which is a very important thing to remember. Otherwise, your changes won't show.
Okay, so I just added a Welcome to Ning 3.0 HTML content type to the very top. So Crystal has some experience with this, so when you migrate, you're probably going to want to make some adjustments. Perhaps I want to add something else here. There's not just content type, there's everything here. Blogs, activities, photos, and more. So this is where you would go, and it's not just to edit the home page, it's to edit any page. So if I want to go to photos here, I'm able to add new content, just like I showed you earlier. So something really neat is that we've just added the ability to recreate your 2.0 navigation structure. So here in 2.0, we had members, videos, events. So obviously something like videos isn't going to migrate because that's not migratable content. but every possible feature that can migrate, we will also add this to your navigation structure post-migration. So let's see here. In the home, it's kind of following the same concept as you had in the 2.0. But if you do want to change anything, go back to your Site and Pages Manager. And we actually break it down. Here's the main navigation, and if you want to reorder anything, you can definitely do that. And then you'll see a full list of unlinked pages. So these were all the pages that you had on your 2.0, but that you didn't actually have linked on your home page. You can easily, let's see, I'll take one of these and add it to my home. That's how you would do that. Okay, and something really neat to keep in mind as well is that Ning 3.0 has special privacy settings, so you don't say, oh, I want my entire network public or everything to be private. You actually get to choose that by page. So I would like maybe my home page to be public, but then I can go to my members page and set that to be viewable by members only, and then save. So that's also going to be one of the first things you'll want to do is check out the privacy settings and set it up to your liking. All right. So I hope I gave you a brief overview of how you can review your content, and I'm happy to answer more questions on that if I maybe skipped over something that you're really wondering about. So let me get back to the PowerPoint and give you some information on finalizing the migration. So once you're ready, you can actually pick a new 3.0 subscription of choice and let us know whether you would like to swap 2.0 and 3.0 subdomains. I want to go into this in more detail. So a lot of you have been asking, well, I already paid for my 2.0 subscription until this date, and you're wondering what's going to happen with that. So what we do is actually prorate you for the unused portion of your subscription, and this is going to generate a credit to your account. And then you're going to pick your new 3.0 plan of choice, and you're going to have a 2-week trial period before you're charged. When that trial period is up, we're going to first apply this credit, and then you will be charged the remaining balance. And next, in regards to swapping 2.0 and 3.0 domains, that just means you're going to tell us if you would like to keep the name you were using in your 2.0. So I was using I Love Pizza for my 2.0, and my 3.0 is I Love Pizza 3. So at the end, you'd say yes, no, in regards to you want to use your original subdomain or not. So a lot of you have custom domains, and you're wondering if you need to make any kind of DNS changes or things like that. The answer is no, and it is not a problem. It's actually built into the migration process. So if you have a custom domain like ilovepizza.com, at the end of the migration, we'll easily transfer that domain over, and you don't need to do anything on your end. So that is built in, and it should be a smooth transition. Once these changes are made, your migration will be complete and your 2.0 network will become inaccessible. Any content that was not copied to your Ning 0.0 network will be gone. So that's where the archiving is really important. If you'd like to keep a copy for yourself, please do archive. It's always valuable to have a copy for yourself, and you will be on the new 3.0 platform. So it will be a really exciting change, and I think Crystal's going to go into this a bit with her experience firsthand of migrating creators.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go through a couple of tips that I've learned and things that I realized from working on the migration of creators, which is our customer community, if you're not familiar with it, to Creators 3.0, which this is an exclusive little tip for you guys. We're going to be launching that next week. We're looking at Tuesday. So if you're not already a member of creators.ning.com, you should definitely join. It's a great place for Ning network creators to get together, share advice, share tips, help each other sort out issues or special troubleshoot special concerns with their networks. So the first thing I want to say is that as you're reviewing your pages, you can always click on View right near, right in the page settings there. And I want to emphasize that you really don't be married to the old template that you have. In order to do some pretty complicated things on your pages in Ning 2.0, it required a lot of tables, a lot of div tags, a lot of really complicated HTML. And the module setup for Ning 3.0 really makes a lot of that unnecessary. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples from Creators 2.0 to Creators 3.0. So this is an example of a pretty complicated page that we have, which is our page introducing you to Ning 3.0. You can see on the left-hand side of the screen the 2.0 version of this page, and on the right-hand side of the screen you can see the 3.0 version of the page. You can see everything on 2.0 was nested in tables and div tags, and it was just really complicated. I would have to take it into an HTML editor. I use Composer. I would have to take it into that every time I needed to edit it. It was just really, really complicated. So in Ning 3.0, in Ning 3.0, I can utilize the modules to house all of that HTML. So it's much easier. I'll give you another example here. This is our Ning Superstars page. These are people that we crown as being supremely helpful, insanely awesome, as you can see there on the page. By using our modules feature, we're able to really feature the newest superstar, as you can see here, and then we're able to give each superstar their own individual little block. And you can see this just shows you a little bit of the difference for this specific page. In Ning 2.0, you can see how crazily nested the tables got here to try to get that alignment. Whereas in Ning 3.0, I utilized the one of our new layout options, which allows you to have a full width block of text at the top and then 2 half-width columns below. So I utilize that there. And you can see it's pretty easy to manage. I can even move these around if I need to. Once we crown a new superstar and George Compton is no longer our new superstar, I can just move him down into the main section with everybody else and put someone else up there. So it's much easier to manage, much easier to edit. Another thing, Juliet touched on this briefly. One thing I wanted to do was, or one feature that Ning 2.0 did not have that Ning 3.0 does, is the concept of a cover photo. So you have cover photos for profiles and you have cover photos for groups. So because Ning, the Creators Network, is going to be many Ning Network creators' first introduction to 3.0, if they haven't tried out a Sandbox Network, then I wanted to throw in some kind of helpful tips for them to navigate the network. So one of these ways was in the way that I designed the default cover photo for profiles. So you can see here I just did something, in the in the color scheme of our network, I just mocked this up really quickly. I use Pixelmator. If you're looking for a good, fairly cheap photo editor, I think it was like $19. There's also services like Canva is really great, and that's actually a free web app for photo editing. So I just made this up there quickly and added this little block pointing people to the options box so that they know how they can change their cover. I also designed some default cover photos for groups so that for group creators who hadn't created an image yet, there was a nice little image, kind of a placeholder there. So I think now would be a good time to start addressing some questions. So we have some of the questions that we've already received, and I'll go through a couple of those. We're getting a lot of questions about the migration deadline.
Okay.
So Juliet, do you want to take this one, or would you like me to?
So I can kind of, you might want to chime in a bit as well, but from an advocacy standpoint, we are a small team, and I think the 5 days is what we've come up with as reasonable for how long it should take to review your content. I understand that some of you are concerned with, you know, rebuilding a design or custom code or something like that in 5 days. And the 5 days is really about reviewing your content. And I've seen from experience when people have 2 weeks, a month to review, it's hard to get an answer back. So that the 5 days is just check out, compare your pages, open some tabs in 2.0 versus 3.0, and give us some feedback in regards to the technology behind it, report any bugs. Aside from that, I think you'd be better to chime in about, you know, if you've gone through it yourself. And
yeah, another thing is that I saw a question asked related to that was, you know, what happens after 5 days? If we're not happy with it, are we just going to be forced to accept this? And that's definitely not the case. You know, as Juliet said, the migration guides will work with you. You know, we want to hear back from you within that 5 days. If you notice something missing, if you have questions about some of the functionality, that 5-day period is really the time we want to hear it. And we'll work with you. So if things aren't right, if you're not happy with it in a manner that is doable within the platform, then, you know, we'll keep working with you until your network is at a good point for your members to open it up.
Sure, and I want to add to that a bit. I'm dealing with a lot of the migrations right now, so probably maybe 20, 30 people that I'm continuously working with them, and it's 5 days to make sure that this actually transferred. Now, if something actually isn't looking right and there's a bug and something isn't working as expected, that 5 days doesn't necessarily apply to you. Anyone that has been pretty open and responsive with communications, I wouldn't, you know, do anything like, okay, you're done. No, if you've been emailing me back and forth and we're working together to sort any issues, that you wouldn't be part of that 5 days because maybe something isn't working as expected. This is 5 days assuming things transferred great, you know, just let us know yes or no. Anything else that is a one-off, we will work with you to make sure that your content is migrated.
On a similar topic to that, we've gotten a few questions about kind of outside of the 5 days, a drop dead date, a date at which everyone will be forced to migrate. We developed Ning 3.0 because Ning 2.0 networks were just really getting outdated. both the look of them and the infrastructure on the engineering side. And it was a much better choice, both for your networks and for Ning from a business standpoint, to look at revamping the platform entirely. One of the big advantages of Ning 3.0 is its fully responsive design. Instead of having to have a separate mobile network, as you did in Ning 2.0, your network completely responds to the size of the screen and has complete functionality with the size of the screen. Beyond that, we're introducing new capabilities, introducing supergroups, lots of new features that you didn't have on Ning 2.0. And we've gone through this in a couple of past webinars, like our new to Ning webinar. So we'll include resources to that in the follow-up email to this. But to go back to the topic of the end migration deadline, yes, we will be eventually retiring the Ning 2.0 platform. The current target for that, we don't have a date. We are leaving a date open because as we have developed the features for Ning 3.0, we've realized that some things are a much bigger engineering challenge than we initially anticipated. So we're wanting to leave time for that.
The initial target was that all networks would have at least a year from the release of phase 1 of the migration tools to migrate their networks,
which happened in mid-March of this year. So that's still what we're looking at. What we want to really make sure that you understand is that you don't have to worry about migrating before the features that you need that will be included in Ning 3.0 are complete. And that kind of rolls into another question. I'm kind of lumping a few questions into one here. And that kind of rolls into other questions about feature priority. Why don't you have events yet? Why don't you have video yet? We hear these questions a lot. We definitely understand that this is frustrating, that you don't have the features that you need for your network. When we determine what features to develop at the onset of Ning 3.0, we look at what features are necessary for networks and what features are most used by networks. So that's the main thing that determines our prioritization. Now that we've got kind of the basis of what really makes a network, we're looking at, again, we're looking at how many networks use these on a regular basis. We're also looking at what features have to be developed before other features. That's what we look at next. We also look at what available resources do we have. We have teams working on migration and we have teams working on new features. So we have to make sure that our best people are working on the project that's best suited to that. To that effect, I don't really have any announcements for you as far as which feature we're going to be working on next. But we did recently run a feature prioritization survey that was sent out to members of the Creators Network, and that was up on a link to it was up on the Creators Network for a few weeks. And we closed that survey last Friday, and we're currently evaluating the results of it. And our engineering team is looking at that and determining what the big project that they're going to work on next is going to be. So we're hoping to release some information about those results next week. But I hope that clues you in a little bit, at least, as to why maybe you don't have events yet, why you don't have videos yet, or why you don't have search yet. Another question, I think I'll pass this one to Juliet so that I can stop talking for a little bit. Juliet, can you talk a little bit more about custom code
why custom code doesn't migrate, and why, how to possibly review it before you add it back into your Ning 3.0 network.
Okay, so first, I just want to clarify a bit. So there's custom CSS. If you migrate that cannot migrate because we've changed the CSS classes in Ning 3.0. And if you are CSS savvy, you can go into our Help Center and just do a search for CSS. You can find the new classes that we're using, so you can edit what 2.0 code you may have and then find out how you can alter that and make it workable for 3.0, but you can't simply migrate it over. It's not going to work. But any custom code you have, like something like let's say a Google Analytics script or something like that, that can migrate. So you should see that in your custom code section. It's CSS code that we cannot migrate. So hopefully that's clear, but let me know if you have any, you can type any more questions.
And even with that custom code that's in the dashboard, it's always good to review that as well. I know in particular jQuery has been causing a few little bugs and issues because a lot of people added jQuery codes to Ning 2.0 to make up for things that were not there. And those things are actually built into Ning 3.0. So they can have a little bit of a, what's that caused? What's that
conflicting code.
Yeah, it's conflicting code.
So yeah, that's a great point. If you do see anything wonky in your 3.0 and you have custom code running, it's probably a good idea to copy that code into a text document, save it, and then load your site completely clear of custom code, and that way you can know if that's the culprit or not. So that's usually my tip for people writing in about that.
And then another question, Juliet, can you talk a little bit about the archive, the Ning 2.0 archiver a little bit, what format it comes out in and what you can
Sure.
For 3.0.
So we have some step-by-step tips in the Ning 2.0 Help Center. I definitely encourage you to just do a search for archiver so you can have some more in-depth steps. But basically it requires Adobe Air, and then you install the Ning archiver on your computer, and it gives you the option to download your Ning 2.0 members and content. There's an archiver limit of 10,000 items that will be spit out into a JSON file, and some of you may have more than 10,000 files that you need archived. We have that limit in place just for performance issues, but I have been giving folks writing in telling me, hey, can you please remove the restriction for me? We're happy to remove that temporarily for you just so you can get all of your content rather than be limited to 10,000. So please just submit a ticket and we're glad to work with you. But you will receive all of this as a JSON file, which it's kind of a complicated and a little scary to read, but we also have some tips for, I think it's in the Help Center, but you can search for a JSON parser. And again, if that JSON sounds scary to you, just submit a ticket and I'm happy to give you some tips for where you can convert that and to make it more readable. But it will give you a JSON file, and really, even if you're not planning to do anything with the file, I recommend you archive and just keep it somewhere, like on an external hard drive or your desktop, in case you want it in the future.
Yes, because as I'm sure you can understand, we can't keep the data from Ning networks in our servers forever. We do have to delete that data at some point. So if month or 2 months or 3 months or a year down the road, you notice that something is missing that you maybe only access once a year, that wasn't noted in the initial process, we won't be able to recover that at that time. So that's where having an archive can definitely come in handy. A quick question that I can cover quickly. We got a question about, what about embedded videos? So videos that are already embedded. If they are embedded in the videos feature, those will not migrate until the video in that feature is complete and released for Ning 3.0. But if they are in a blog post, if they're in a page, if they are, what other options would there be? If they're in a discussion, those will migrate completely fine. Those will come over with that discussion, with that blog post, with that page.
I think I've got one. It's more feature requests and questions. I'm going to lump two questions into one. One is about search. So right now, Ning 3.0 does not have an advanced search feature. So if your network is public, we've been recommending a Google search widget, which you can embed as HTML. And I understand that's not a robust option for all of you, or perhaps you have a private network and you'd like to keep it that way. Search is on our product roadmap. So again, you can check that for status and how it's being prioritized. And let's see, we had another question about moderator roles. So right now we don't have the advanced ability to create multiple levels of administrators like you're used to in 2.0. At present, if you'd like help administering your 3.0 network, you can assign people to be admins, which actually have the same powers as you, the network creator. They have access to all of the site and pages manager, the domain mapping page. They can also appoint other people to become admin. So it's really something that you would need to use caution with. I understand many of you may not feel comfortable assigning other people this level of power, and it's definitely understandable. So at this point, if that's important to you, I'd recommend waiting until a later phase of migration. I don't have a date for this, but I know it is definitely being considered by our product team.
Okay, and then I think one more thing we'll cover before we close this, because we are coming to the end of the hour, is the concept of Sandbox Networks. If you are a member of the Creators Network, you may have set up a Sandbox network, a Sandbox 3.0 network. This is the program where we allowed you to have a test 3.0 network, no domain mapping, no 5-member limit, so basically just your administrators. And so we have a question about how should I migrate to that? Should I set everything up in that first, or what? What we recommend there is don't duplicate features. So if you already have your groups on Ning 2.0, don't create like a new group with the same name on Ning 3.0, because then your group won't have any place to go. But things like design, you can definitely set up your design. You can set up your network settings. You can set up text boxes. You can set up a lot of things like that to kind of put structure in place for the content from your Ning 2.0 network to just then be kind of dropped into when you're ready to migrate. One thing to be sure of, though, is when you do submit your migration request, if you have already set up the design, if you have already changed some of the network settings, you want to make sure to in your confirmation email that you'll get, when you reply to that confirmation email, make sure to let us know about those features that you don't want us to migrate, that you want us to make sure not to migrate the design from your Ning 2.0, not to migrate your network settings. If you had, for example, a blog on your 2.0 network and it didn't really get used much and it just kind of became mostly like spam, or it's really old, nobody submitted a blog post in 3 years. You can say that as well. You can say, don't migrate my blogs. So that you can, if you want, you can just start fresh with a new blog feature. Ning 2.0 or Ning 3.0, sorry.
I think I wanted to go over one more question.
Okay,
I'm sure everyone loves talking about pricing. It's a big concern. So people are asking about, do I keep my 2.0 plan and subscription? Am I going to be paying the same price? So it really depends. The way it works is, as I mentioned, you are prorated for the unused portion and that credit goes to your account. But then you're asked to pick a new 3.0 subscription. So you can take a look at our pricing page, and right now in this stage we're giving you 2 times the member limit, so you can keep that in mind when picking a new plan. So that might factor into it, but you're going to tell us, you know, what 3.0, if you want to be billed monthly or annually, and whether you're going to be paying more or less kind of depends on your network. I think a really big portion of network creators don't have, you know, more than, I don't know the exact number, but let's just say 2,000 members. It's something where most of you will probably save money than your current plan, but yes, you do need to pick a 3.0 subscription.
Yeah, and we'll follow up in the email following up with this. We'll include, you know, links to the Ning 3.0 pricing. Yeah. We'll include links to a lot of the resources that we mentioned here, to the 3.0 Help Center, to the Creators Network, and to some of the pages where we explain, you know, what can be migrated, what can't, and some of our Help Center documentation regarding migration as well. Thank you so much for joining us today for this hour. It feels like it went by like nothing. So we definitely, this is the first migration webinar that we did. So in that, the email follow-up, you know, feel free to provide some feedback. We know there were a few little technical difficulties, which we'll try to work out for the video of this. And we will be giving you the video of this as well. So thank you again for all of your great questions. We understand that this is a really kind of nerve-wracking thing, because your communities aren't just a website to you. Your communities are groups of people that you've brought together in this great environment. So we understand that there's a lot of concern and a lot of emotion with migration. So we'll try to continue you know, making sure you're involved in the process and making sure we are putting out as much information as we can that's going to help you and help your members as well. We're developing some content that's going to help you explain this change to your members too. So again, thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to your migrations or to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.